Giftwrapped. The first gift appeared on December 10th, nestled beneath the Christmas tree as though it had always been there. Emma's gaze froze on the small, meticulously wrapped box. A prickle of unease crept up her spine, her mind racing with questions. Who had put it there? How had she missed it? The air in the room seemed heavier, charged with an unspoken tension that made her chest tighten. The shiny red paper glistened under the soft glow of the tree lights, but there was no tag, no indication of who it was for or where it had come from. Her pulse quickened. She had no memory of putting it there.
Max, did you see this?
She called, her voice trembling slightly. Her 8-year-old son bounded into the room, his eyes lighting up the moment they landed on the box.
Whoa, is it for me? Can I open it?
Emma frowned.
Where did it come from? Did someone bring it over?
Max shook his head.
I don't know. It's just there. Can I open it, Mom? Please?
No, Max.
Emma said firmly, though unease churned in her stomach.
We wait until Christmas to open presents.
Max pouted but obeyed, reluctantly setting the box back under the tree. Emma's eyes lingered on it, its perfect edges almost too pristine, too deliberate. That night, as she checked the locks on the doors and windows, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, a prickling sensation that seemed to follow her from room to room. The next morning, she awoke to the sound of tearing paper. She rushed to the living room to find Max sitting on the floor, the red wrapping paper discarded around him. In his hands was a small wooden toy soldier. Its paint was chipped, and one eye had faded into a hollow void. The surface was worn smooth, as though handled by countless hands. A faint scorch mark along its base hinted at some long-forgotten fire.
Max, I told you not to open it.
Emma snapped, her voice sharper than she intended. Max's face fell.
I'm sorry, Mom. But look, isn't it cool? It's so old.
Emma's unease deepened. She examined the soldier, its solemn expression almost accusatory.
Don't do this again, Max. Promise me.
I promise,
he said, clutching the toy tightly. She tried to convince herself it was nothing, perhaps an old trinket left behind by a previous homeowner, but doubts gnawed at the edges of her mind. What if it wasn't just a coincidence? She replayed the events in her head, searching for a logical explanation. But each possibility seemed more far-fetched than the last. The thought lingered, heavy and insistent, like an unwelcome shadow she couldn't shake. That night she stayed awake, determined to catch whoever was sneaking into her home. But the hours dragged on in silence, and exhaustion eventually claimed her. The following night, another gift appeared. This one was wrapped in deep green paper with a silver bow. Emma's heart sank as she saw Max's eager hands reaching for it.
No,
she said sharply, grabbing the box before he could reach it. Inside was an old photograph, yellowed and faded. It showed 2 children standing in front of a snow-covered house, their arms slung over each other's shoulders. Emma's breath hitched. The house in the background looked disturbingly familiar. It was their house, but older, with a broken fence that had been replaced years ago.
That's our street,
Max said, tilting his head. Emma's grip tightened on the photo. Who were these children? And why did she feel like their eyes followed her, even in the stillness of the image? Over the next few nights, the gifts kept coming. A crayon drawing appeared one morning, depicting a stick family standing beneath a lopsided tree. The figures were labeled "Me and Mom" in shaky childlike writing. Max denied making it, though the handwriting resembled his own. A delicate silver locket with a tarnished chain, containing a tiny photograph of a girl with braids. A child's scuffed shoe, far too small for Max. A cracked porcelain doll with hollow eyes that seemed to follow Emma wherever she moved. Each time, Max's fascination grew, while Emma's dread deepened. She began locking the doors and windows obsessively, setting up her phone to record the living room overnight. But every morning, there was another gift, and the recordings showed nothing but still darkness. On December 20th, Emma's resolve broke.
Max, Are you hiding these somewhere and putting them under the tree?
Max's face crumpled,
No, Mom. I swear.
but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. That night, she scoured local news archives, searching for anything that might explain the strange items. Her hands trembled as she clicked through old reports, her fingers icy against the keyboard. The room felt suffocating, the faint hum of the computer amplifying her rising panic. Each article blurred before her eyes, her breath quickening as a cold sweat broke out on her forehead. It was as if the walls themselves were closing in, pressing against her chest and making it harder to think. Still, she forced herself to keep scrolling, dreading what she might uncover. The photograph of the two children? It was from a 2012 article about siblings who vanished on their way home from school. The locket? It belonged to a 7-year-old girl named Clara, missing since 2016. And the crayon drawing, Emma stared at the scanned image in a news clipping, her stomach churning. It matched one described by a grieving mother in a 2019 interview, a crude depiction of a stick family, eerily similar to the one under her tree, which had been her child's last known possession. Emma's breath quickened as the horrifying realization set in. Each item was tied to a missing child, their stories etched in tragedy. Her vision blurred with tears as she whispered, "Why us? Why Max?" On Christmas Eve, Emma resolved to stay awake all night. Armed with a baseball bat, she sat in the dimly lit living room, her ears straining for the slightest sound. The house was eerily silent, the only noise the occasional creak of settling wood. Around midnight, she heard it, the soft rustling of paper. Heart pounding, Emma crept toward the tree. Max was kneeling beneath it, his hands moving with fierce determination as he unwrapped a final gift.
Max, stop!
She shouted, rushing to him. But he didn't respond. Inside the box was a small antique mirror with an ornate frame. Max held it up to his face, and his expression twisted into something unrecognizable. His lips curled into a cruel smile that didn't belong to her son.
Max?
Emma whispered, her voice trembling. He turned the mirror toward her, and Emma's breath caught. The reflection staring back wasn't hers. It was a distorted version of herself, hollow-eyed and grinning maliciously. Whispers filled the room, growing louder, more insistent, as if the mirror itself was alive.
"Thank you,"
Max said, though the voice was not his. It was deeper, colder.
"You've been such a good host."
Emma stumbled back, dropping the bat.
What are you? What do you want?
The thing wearing Max's face grinned wider.
"Just a gift. One that keeps giving."
The mirror cracked, the sound split in the air like a gunshot and reverberating through the room. Shards sprayed outward, glinting like tiny blades in the dim light, as if the mirror itself had exploded in defiance. Emma felt the vibrations ripple through her chest, the noise ringing in her ears long after it had faded. The cold, metallic scent of fear seemed to thicken in the air, mingling with the faint smell of dust and something faintly burnt. Max collapsed, unconscious but breathing. Emma clutched him to her chest, sobbing with relief, but her tears turned to ice when she looked back at the tree. Underneath she saw another gift, wrapped in shimmering gold paper, waiting silently beneath the branches. As the last gift remains unopened, one can only wonder what mysteries still lie beneath its shimmering paper. Perhaps some stories are better left untold, or unopened. From all of us here at the Haunt Vault, we hope you enjoyed this unsettling holiday journey. If you're brave enough to stick around, there's always more horror waiting for you in the vault. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to ensure you never miss a story that lingers long after the lights go out. Stay safe, stay spooky, and may your holidays be hauntingly delightful. Until next time, Vault Keepers, good night.